Do you want to help your children and grandchildren build a faith that lasts for generations? Is it sometimes tricky to know how parents and grandparents can work together without stepping on each other's toes? Would you like to better understand the powerful role grandparents can play in shaping a child's heart for the Lord? Then we're glad you're joining us for today's episode. I'm your host, Alex Cody, and welcome to my mom's podcast, Parenting with Ginger Hubbard. Ginger is the best-selling author of Don't Make Me Count to 3, Wise Words for Moms, and I Can't Believe You Just Said That. She speaks at moms conferences, homeschool conventions, and Christian schools across the country. You can check out her parenting resources, find out when she's speaking in or near your area, or explore the possibility of having Ginger lead a mom's conference at your church or school at gingerhubbard.com. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help support our ministry, one way you can do that is by purchasing Ginger's resources directly from her website instead of other online retailers. And stay tuned until the end of this episode to receive a discount code on your purchase at gingerhubbard.com. Thank you for your support, listeners. This enables us to further our mission to help parents reach the hearts of their children for the glory of God. Quick question. Have your kids ever brought you math homework and asked for help, and you've realized you basically did a mathematical brain dump after high school? I get it. I did too, and that's why you need CTC Math. Whether you're homeschooling or just helping after school, it is such a valuable resource. They offer concise, engaging video tutorials that fully cover the subject without overcomplicating it. It's like having a personal math tutor available at any time. And you'll also get detailed reports and summaries of your child's progress so you can clearly see how they're doing. And you get access to their entire catalog of lessons, not just one grade level like many programs. And plus, there is a 365-day money-back guarantee, no questions asked. So if your family needs extra math support, please go to ctcmath.com and sign up for a free trial. That's ctcmath.com. Well, what's up, Mom? And hello to our listeners. We are so excited about today's episode because we're talking about something that really touches every family one way or another, grandparenting. Whether you're already a grandparent, looking forward to that season one day, raising children who have grandparents in their lives, or simply wanting to invest in the next generation, this conversation is for you. Our guest today is going to help us think biblically and practically about the influence grandparents can have, the legacy that they can leave, and the eternal impact of faithfully pouring into the lives of children. So, Mom, why don't you introduce Lori and tell us a little more about her?
Of course. Lori Wildenberg is a licensed parent and family educator, author, and national speaker who is passionate about helping families build connections that last a lifetime and beyond. She has written 7 family life books, including her newest release, Grandparents Make Grand Partners: How to Have an Eternal Impact on Your Grandchild's Life. I read that book. I loved that book, and I'm going to be reading that book several times in this next season of life. Lori is married to her college sweetheart, Tom, and together they have 4 adult children, 3 in-loves, and 5 grandchildren, with number 6 arriving in October. And I have to say that that is especially sweet to me because Alex is expecting our first grandbaby this fall in September. So this conversation is very timely for us. Lori says a perfect day in her world is a hike with Tom, any combination of family members, and Toby, the family golden doodle. I love that. The Wildenburg home is nestled in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, which sounds lovely. Lori, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the podcast.
Ginger, I have been looking forward to this conversation. I am so excited to be talking to you, and I'm thrilled that you are expecting grandbaby number 1. It's so fun. Woohoo.
So excited.
And way to go, Alex.
Oh, thank you.
you get a little bit of a shout out there too.
No, it's all about us. It's all about the grandparents.
Yes.
Especially in this episode.
Yes, that is true. We'll talk about me later.
Okay.
So, Lori, before we get into the practical side of grandparenting, I think it's important to recognize that Our culture often paints a very different picture of this season in life than scripture does. And culture can make grandparenting sound like a time to step back and disengage. But God gives grandparents a beautiful calling to pass on faith and wisdom and the truth to the next generation. So let's start off by talking about how culture's message to grandparents is different from God's call and command. Can you talk about that?
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. So, in today's day and age, so often, especially not all grandparents are retired, but many are moving toward that particular season in life. And the message to those folks who are retiring is that now it is all about you. You've got probably an empty nest, and now is your time. It's your season. It's your time to be a little selfish. It's your time to um, just focus on your needs and your wants and your happiness. I think that's actually super sad because a lot of people buy into that. And there's nothing wrong with happy. Everybody likes happy. God likes happy, right? Joy is the serious business of heaven, as C.S. Lewis would say. So that's all good, but we've got to remember our priorities and what's more important for us to be chasing happiness or for us to be pouring into the lives of those we love and hopefully have them in heaven with us someday. So have those connections that last a lifetime and beyond. That to me is the most important thing. Now if Tom came home and he said, "Hey, I've got tickets to go on a river cruise." I mean, oh yeah, I'm going to do that, right? That sounds really sweet, but it wouldn't be my top priority. And yeah, you don't miss out on those things. Those things are important too to enjoy God's creation. But to remember that the family that He's given us, and He's given us a call and really a command, which, oh my gosh, Ginger, this so surprised me. I don't know if because I wasn't a grandparent before that I didn't pay this close attention to it, but we have a command to pass along our faith, and you can see it sprinkled throughout scripture, particularly in the Old Testament. And one of the verses that this just really, I just think it's so critical from Deuteronomy 4:9. Only be careful and watch yourselves closely so that you do not forget the things your eyes have seen or let them fade from your heart as long as you live. Teach them to your children and to their children after that.
Wow. And that's just such an important foundation because biblical grandparenting is not simply parenting all over again. It's an entirely different role, as you just read there, with different responsibilities, different boundaries, and different opportunities for influence. And, now that Alex is expecting my first grandbaby, I'm especially eager to think through all of this in a way that really honors the Lord and
Mm.
supports her and her husband well. So, Lori, how is grandparenting different from parenting?
Well, I have to say, I love it that you said supports her and her husband well. That is huge. That's where we are going to have the most influence if we keep in mind that our relationship with our adult children totally dictate the relationship with our grandkids. We need to be in that supportive role. And I loved parenting, and Ginger, I'm going to venture to say you probably did too because of the business that we are in, right?
Right.
Right? We love families. We love being a parent. We love being a part of a family. And the role of a grandparent really needs to embrace the shift, shall we say. Um, and it's hard. Finally we get used to being a parent, right? That we're the ones that's calling the shots, that we've got all the responsibility. We're making decisions regarding daily life and holidays and all of these things. Now suddenly, boom, we're shifting to the side to that supportive role. And, my book, Grandparents Make Grand Partners, we are partners with the Lord and with our adult children in encouraging faith in our grandkids and godly character development and so forth. Those are important things. And yet it's a shift, it's a supportive role, and it's not an equal partnership. We need to be sensitive to our adult children and how they are choosing to raise their family. And it may very well be sometimes different than how we did it. So, yeah.
Yep, and that's one thing that Alex and I talk about, but because of the ministry I'm in of parenting, there's this question, and will she do things exactly how I did, or will she do some things differently? And she's already said that there's a few things that she's going to do differently. And I think she is incredibly wise to do some things differently. And so I have every intention of respecting and supporting. Well, and it's such a blessing to me because Alex and her husband Josh are very godly people anyway. So I know that whatever decisions they make, they're going to be praying about them. And so that's going to be at the Lord's leading. So they're going to be pretty easy to support, I think.
And of course, they have to do it a little differently. They've got a whole different culture to deal with than
Mhm.
we had when we were raising our kids.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that wisdom and discernment, man, that's going to be really important.
Hmm.
Yep. And the topic of grandparents is very near and dear to my heart. I was blessed with amazing, godly grandparents who were and still are very involved in all of their grandchildren's lives. And every memory that I have with them is just so special. And I still get to enjoy time with them as an adult. And that's even more special in some ways. But sadly, I know that's not always the case for everybody.
Mhm.
And some grandparents are very hands off, and some struggle with being a bit too hands on and not respecting boundaries. But from what I've seen, a lot of these tendencies can often stem from individual grandparents' personalities. So I thought it might be helpful for us to identify some of the common approaches grandparents tend to take based on their different personalities and styles. So is that something that you could elaborate on for us?
I would love to. So I identified, and this is completely unscientific, let's just say that.
Okay.
This is my observation. And just as before I became a parent, I observed, and I'm going to guess Ginger was exactly like me. I really watched different parents and also thought about, my parents and my in-laws and I observe different things. What do I want to keep? What do I want to get rid of? And I did the same as I was entering this season of grandparenting, and I identified 9 different ones. And do we have time for me to do like a little informal quiz for the audience? Could
Oh,
we
yeah.
do
Sure.
this?
Yeah, that
Okay.
sounds
Please.
fun. Yeah.
All right. So typically, you are a mixture of a few different personalities. And again, the personalities may be somewhat dependent on each of your adult children's family makeup and how they manage things, because that does play into your grandparent personality quite a bit. And also the individual grandchild. So there's the uniqueness factor to keep in mind as well. But we've got some general tendencies that we probably lean toward. And most likely you will see yourself in at least 3 of these. So here we go. Here's the quiz. So let's pretend that your grandchild has come up to you and said, "Hey, can I have a cookie?" Now, if your response is, "Oh, yes, of course. How many do you want? And do you want frosting on it?" Perhaps you are the chum grandparent, the grandparent that is highly relational and very motivated by keeping the grandchild happy. If your answer is, "Well, okay, but you'll have to wait till dessert, you'll have to have it after dinner," that is most likely the response of the captain grandparent, who is a little bit more structured and rules driven, and where the grandchild with the chum grandparent, that's super relational, and with the captain grandparent, It's much more structured, but yet the child feels very safe and knows that they belong. And there's a lot of good things to that. If the response is, let's ask your parents, that's perhaps the consultant grandparent. If the response is, may I, not can I have a cookie, that would be the ceremonial grandparent, the one that's very focused on perhaps tradition and manners. If the response is, well, if it's gluten or sugar or dairy free, okay. So that might be the cool grandparent, the one that's sort of, interested in various new trends and is up on things.
The hip grandparent.
The hip one. Oh, yeah.
Mom, does that sound like you, concerned about gluten and dairy and sugar?
Absolutely not. Not my thing. I put bacon grease in everything I make.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. Or it could be if you do a lot of childcare, maybe 5 days a week, all day long. That would be the surrogate grandparent who would answer according to however they want to answer. That's up to them. And then the next one, the Christian coach. This one would be answering, well, sure, if it's okay with your folks, and let's say a prayer before we have the cookie. The checked out grandparent isn't around to ask. They're on their cruise. And then the canceled grandparent, that's the very sad situation, the one that is estranged not by their choice, but by their adult child's choice, doesn't have the opportunity to give an answer either.
Oh, Lori, we could do a whole episode on that.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Oh, that's so common right now. It's horrible. But yeah, okay. I don't want to get too sidetracked. Go ahead.
So those are the 9. And is it all right if I go into a little bit more detail with the chum and the captain and the intentional Christian grandparent?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the chum is so highly relational and really wants to make that grandchild happy and wants to have a lot of fun. And there is nothing wrong with any of that. But if you stretch that personality out to its extreme, it can be a personality that puts themselves in between the child and the parent. So, what that would look like is, hey, what happens at grandma's stays at grandma's. And I think that's really dangerous. We do not want to do that. Sure, we want to build relationship and have fun with our grandkids, but they need to know that we are on the same page as their parent and we're very respectful of their parents' wishes. And we don't want to encourage lies of omission. That's not okay. So that would be the side that you'd really have to watch out for if you tend to lean highly relationally. Now, if you lean a little bit more towards structure and rules, again, that can be really great because the grandkids know, hey, I'm safe at Mimi and Papa's house. This is a safe place to be. They're concerned about safety. They're always thinking about my well-being. That's really good. The downside is that particular personality could be highly inflexible. So it could be you might hear them say something like, my house, my rules, or that's not the way I do it, that kind of thing. And again, that puts yourself in between the parent and the child by saying that what you say goes even before what the parent says. And we don't want to communicate that message. Again, we are in that supportive role. The intentional Christian grandparent or the Christian coach, so awesome because they weave faith into the relationship. And that's so important. We want to do that. We want to be doing that. The thing to watch out for is that it can sound sometimes a little hollow or pious if we aren't careful. We want to be sincere and humble in our approach to our faith and the way that we express it, rather than give perhaps a canned answer like, oh, If it doesn't work out, well, where God closes a door, he opens a window. Things sort of like that we would want to avoid.
Yeah, that's really helpful, Lori, because I think that many grandparents, no matter what their personality styles are, truly want to be a blessing, but
Mhm.
they may not always know what support looks like to their adult children.
Yeah.
Sometimes help really does feel helpful, but sometimes it can feel unintentionally like pressure or
Yeah.
interference.
Mhm.
Whether you're trying to conceive, you're pregnant, maybe postpartum, or navigating perimenopause, or maybe just wanting overall wellness, having the right support makes a huge difference. We Heart Nutrition is a faith based company creating supplements with bioavailable ingredients so your body can actually absorb what it needs. My mom has seen real improvements in her sleep, mental clarity, and even the strength of her hair, skin, and nails with a regimen tailored to her needs. And I have had more peace of mind and greater emotional stability and significantly better sleep since starting their prenatal and magnesium glycinate. Getting started is simple. Just take the quiz at weheartnutrition.com to find the supplements that are right for you and use code GINGER at checkout for 20% off your order. That's weheartnutrition.com, code GINGER.
Let's take a moment to talk about healthcare. Redeem Health Share through Samaritan Ministries has given me peace of mind on so many levels. After years of paying ridiculously high prices for health insurance with little return, my husband and I finally found a solution that we feel great about. Redeem is affordable, allows us to choose the providers and treatments we want, and aligns with our biblical beliefs and values. Most importantly, it's built on true Christian community where members serve one another with compassion, prayer, and financial support. Find an affordable healthcare solution that's right for your family by clicking on the link in the show notes or go to redeemhealthshare.org. Like Alex said, our family was so blessed by my sweet parents. They truly are the epitome of good grandparents, and they are certainly a great role model for me. So, especially as I enter in this new season that I'm about to be in, they came alongside me with support, respected my parenting choices, and just grandparented with tremendous wisdom and humility and a whole lot of prayer, which is important. And my goal as a soon to be grandmother is to be the kind of grandparents that my parents have always been to our kids. But I'm also gleaning a lot of wisdom from you here, Lori. And I would love to hear you speak into how grandparents can best support their adult children as they raise their own family. So maybe what are some things to avoid? And we touched on
Mhm.
prayer. How can we pray for our grandkids?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think there are, well, I've listed a number of ways in the book, but I'm going to just focus on a few. I think if we can pray that they develop a love for God's word and a relationship with Jesus, I think that is really important so that they are able to recognize God's voice and be able to have some discernment and wisdom as they walk through things. Pray that they choose godly friends and that they develop a godly character. And if you happen to be noticing some things in your grandchild, because we all have stuff we have to work on. If you notice perhaps selfishness or maybe coveting or jealousy, to pray some replacement prayers. Pray that the jealousy is replaced by contentment. Um, Selfishness by unselfishness, things like that, to pray for the things that you want, for the things, when you notice, we always know what we don't like, but sometimes we have a hard time pinpointing what we do want. So when you see something in your grandkids, that might be a call to prayer. um, Perhaps you're noticing sibling rivalry. You pray for a great relationship for your grandkids to have with one another. I think those are really critical prayers to have. And the opportunity to know Jesus better, to soften that heart for the things of the Lord, I think are really great ways to pray for our grandkids.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's so good. And then let me back up there. I also would love to hear, like I said, I really want to be a good support to Josh and Alex as they have the first grandbaby there. And so, what advice would you give to me and other grandmothers as far as the support side of things? Maybe some things to avoid that you've learned in your experience or research.
Well, I have a group called Moms Together on Facebook, and I did an informal survey of the moms, and I asked them, what are some kind of hot spots regarding your kids' grandparents? And I got a lot of response. and and they're all fair. They're raising their kiddos in a different culture than we did. So some of the things that they mentioned, like many do not want pictures of their kiddos on social media.
Yep, that's one for me.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be allowed to post pictures of my grandbaby?
No, you won't.
Okay.
I know.
Surprise.
I'll submit
So
it.
it's so hard. Like I've got one family that's absolutely none, and I've got another family that would be that's all okay. So with the one family that's all okay, if I do post some, and I don't do it very often, but if I do, I put a little sticker on their face or I have their
Mhm.
back
Yep.
because I just think with the age of AI and
Yeah,
predators,
Mhm.
ew,
Yeah.
dang. So
it's
so that
crazy.
that is one, right?
So
I
okay, great.
mean,
So I was already
we're
gonna
thinking
blow it with the first one, lay another one
You
on
got
me.
it. You got it.
of course we have grace with each other, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we're all learning, and I think that's a big one. To be super respectful of the choices that our kiddos are making in terms of their parenting, and not to undermine them, and that can come not in a way that's intentional. So for instance, I think everything my grandkids do is completely adorable. So even if they're doing something slightly edgy, I still think it's kind of cute. And my son has had to tell me, Mom, when I'm trying to correct them, don't laugh because I just think
Right.
it's so funny and it's so adorable that I think it's all great. But here he's trying to encourage godly character and socially acceptable behavior.
Right.
And I'm getting a kick out of it. Well, they zero in totally on my laughter and
Mhm.
completely ignore what their dad is trying to do. And I would never want to undermine my adult children, not ever. So if I feel like there's a little like, I don't know, I have to excuse myself or put on a poker face because it's hard sometimes because they're just so charming. And so that's another one to be very careful of. If you live in the same sort of proximity, one of the complaints that the moms had was the grandparents stopping by unannounced. And I think if we all sit back and remember what it was like when we were parents and had kids that age, how you really never had a hot cup of coffee and you often found your coffee mug in the microwave, right? You just didn't have the time. You barely had time to use the restroom. So we got to remember that and to at least give a heads up. Hey, is it okay if I stop by? Or, what's going on? To be very respectful of their schedule.
Would it
And
be totally hypocritical because I dropped by my parents' house unannounced?
All the time.
Right?
I'm
I did it
totally getting you
yesterday.
back. When that grandbaby's over there,
Maybe we gotta
I
figure
am
out a balance
returning
here.
the
Maybe I'll
favor.
start sending you text messages so I can hold myself to the same standard.
oh,
No,
that's funny.
it's
But I
fine.
have to say, if my kids drop by unannounced, whoop, I'm all good.
Oh, yeah.
But it's
I
it's a
think it's
Fair.
little
different.
different
It's
hat,
Okay.
different. Yeah.
Good to know.
right?
Good to know. I'll just say
A
Yeah.
it's
little,
different.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little different hat. But definitely with being the grandparent, I think it's really important to ask. But that's funny you say that, Alex, because I'm like, hey, if my kids stop by, I have no problem putting what I've got going on down.
Yep, yep, that's how we are too.
So,
But yeah,
yeah.
but the tired mom who's got the baby or the toddler and, they were just sat down to maybe have their devotional or the baby's asleep and they're wanting a little quiet
That's
time and
true.
then grandma just drops in unexpectedly. That makes total sense. There's a
Okay.
big difference in the
Okay.
relationships
For sure.
in the season of life. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's helpful.
definitely. One response really cracked me up, and this one was they were upset because the mother-in-law was folding their laundry, and I was thinking, "Gosh, that's kind of a nice thing to do."
Yeah.
Well, the daughter-in-law was mortified that the mother-in-law was seeing her undergarments.
Oh my
She
goodness.
she did not want that happening. And
Mm,
so, you got to ask, right?
right.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
here, this mother in law, I'm sure, was thinking, I want to bless them. And
Right.
this is something I can do and it'll save them time. And
Mhm.
they didn't want it.
Mm,
Mhm. So maybe don't
So,
make assumptions.
yeah.
exactly, to
Mhm.
ask.
Yeah.
And when we can ask, and also when we can remember that respect is huge. So, not disregarding or, you know, even just the whole idea of laughing when they're trying to discipline their kids. We really want to be respectful of our adult child's role. And when I looked through all of the responses, it really had to do with three things. One, there was a lack of respect in various areas, or there was, like some inflexibility. But again, we need to be respectful and we need to be kind. And I think if we can maintain humility during this, because when we're at this stage of the game, we have a very different perspective than we had when we were in the trenches. We have the long game that we're able to look at. Now, it's not the same when you're the parent because you are very focused on that immediate moment and a little bit moving forward, but really you're really focused on how to get from A to B. And we've already got it to Z. So we've got a whole different perspective, and to keep that humility in mind so that we don't, I mean, here's another big one, that we don't offer advice unless it's asked for.
Good
Mm,
one.
Um, Advice that isn't asked for really comes across like criticism. And we want to be careful of that, because that, I would believe that that's not most grandparents' intention. They're intending to help, but if it's not being asked for, I think we got to just kind of let that slide, unless you have a relationship where you can say, I have a little different perspective. Would you be interested in hearing it?
Mm.
But to be able to respond to that, yeah, I don't need it, and be okay with that too.
I think that we can all agree that even in loving families, there can be misunderstandings and unmet expectations or different ways of doing things, whether it's discipline or schedules or food or screen time or posting pictures online, as we've talked about, or how much advice is offered versus how much is actually wanted, like you said. And those differences can cause tension. So, Lori, what have you found to be typical conflicts or frustration points between children and grandparents? And what are the best ways to address these?
Yeah, when I was researching for this, and of course, we talked a little bit about the hot spots. Those are definitely points of contention and disrespect and inflexibility. Those sort of things definitely are going to get us into trouble. But and this is so hard because this is a cultural thing. There are so many families dealing with different religious or political views that it can cause estrangement. And I think that is something that is so tragic, Because, Alex, like you said, loving families are going to have differences of opinion. And my husband and I are very similar in what the way we look at stuff, but we're not exactly the same. And that's going to happen as we, look at our kids and our in-laws and our grandkids. We're going to have little different perspectives. But the hardest thing is, I think, when there's very different views regarding faith and politics, that can get very contentious. And it can get to the point where the parents of the grandkids may say, "Hey, you can see the grandkids, but you can't pray with them. You can't talk about your faith." These are deep things that for an intentional Christian grandparent, oh my gosh, that is really hard. But we forget that our kids are created to be our grandkids' parents, and we are created to be the parents of our adult children and the grandparents to our grandkids. So, what would God have our role be in that situation? Because the parents are going to call the shots regarding some of this stuff. And if we want to have influence in our grandkids' lives, we've got to maintain relationship. Now, that doesn't mean that you get rid of your convictions, but that means that you focus on your relationship and what can you do with this set of boundaries. Well, God can do a lot with that, and we need to trust him with that. So we go back to, how do we pray for our grandkids? We start getting that relationship and all of that energy and that love and that care and that concern by praying for our grandkids and for our adult children and maintaining relationship in the process. Because again, that's where we have influence. And hopefully hearts will get softened. But we don't know. But what we do know is, if God's got us in this grandparenting place, and we have these adult children and we have these grandkids, the Lord is working. We can be very confident of that. So we do have to abide if we want to maintain relationship. And there are some families, one of the families that I interviewed did have a situation where their daughter, who was brought up in a Christian home and faith was very important, has now wandered away from the faith. And she's not training her kids up at all with anything that has to do with the Bible or prayer or whatever. But she's had conversations with her mom. And when the kids are at her parents' house, they are able to pray before a meal because that's always been their tradition. Now, they had a lot of conversation about that, and they are able to do that. But there isn't always that trust in these situations. And then if it's regarding political, I think just put that on the shelf. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so
Yep, that's good. So even in that, it's about conversation. If the
Mhm.
say that the adult children are not Christians and they're saying, "I don't want you reading the Bible. I don't want you quoting scripture." It's okay to still have conversations? Well, you know that I do love the Lord and my relationship with the Lord is very important to me. So tell me what is okay. I want to respect and honor your boundaries. Is it okay if we just pray before meals? Could we just do that? And so just have the conversations, because you might be surprised if we're respectful and we come humbly and we ask, would it be okay to do this, but I want to respect everything that you're telling me. We're willing to respect them, and so they may be willing to give a little bit in that area too, and say, sure, it'll be fine to pray before meals, but let's just not get out the Bible and read, things like that. So I think it
I
just goes
love
back
that.
to, yeah, yeah, just
Mhm.
going back and respecting and having those conversations and being humble and willing, um, just to talk about it. What's
That
okay, what's not.
humility is so critical because it really builds that bridge,
Hmm.
and we wanna keep building the bridges, right? We don't wanna burn them. So the humility, that is the way that we can come into a conversation. And if it's wrapped around respect, we will get pretty far, I think.
Now is the part of our show where we give a quick tip for parents. Today's quick tip is courtesy of Lori. What do you have for us today?
So, my quick tip is to avoid giving a lot of advice. Wait until you are asked. And I think that will be really important, because the more that we attempt to control or influence in a particular way, we will end up having less influence than we would have if we avoided the attempting to control or provide some great wisdom when it's not asked for.
If you have a quick tip for our show, we'd love to hear from you. It can be any random tip about cooking, housekeeping, something you do with your kids, ideas for fun date nights with your spouse, anything at all. We'd love to share your ideas in the podcast. Just go to gingerhubbard.com to submit those.
I'm excited to take a moment to tell you about the new and expanded edition of Wise Words for Moms, a quick reference guide for parents and teachers. The chart identifies 32 common behavior problems in children, such as disobeying, lying, and complaining, and provides passages of scripture to help parents, teachers, and caregivers address heart issues in richly biblical ways. Imagine the spiritual impact on children if all the people who love them most were teaching the same biblical principles at home, at church, at school, and even at grandma's house. The expanded edition covers even more struggles, such as biting, hitting, bullying, excessive talking, interrupting, procrastination, screaming, and tantrums. And we appreciate you supporting our podcast by ordering directly from my website instead of other online retailers. Just go to gingerhubbard.com to take advantage of our buy three, get a fourth chart free bundle deal of Wise Words for Moms. And be sure to use code parenting at checkout to receive an extra 10% off your order. That's gingerhubbard.com, code parenting. Well, listeners, I hope you guys have been as encouraged as I have by this conversation with Lori. And I just wanted to remind you again that her book is Grandparents Make Grand Partners. I have read this book. It is absolutely phenomenal. If you're a grandparent to be, or even if you just have influence in the lives of children of other parents, what a great book to read. She is just a wealth of wisdom. And I'm just so excited. I get to say it one more time because we're talking about grandparents, but I'm so excited about Alex having our first baby next month. And I just feel so much better prepared to support Josh and Alex and in healthy ways, and to just be the best Gigi I can be to little Christina, thanks to the godly role models my parents were to me, and just all the wisdom I've gleaned from Lori and her book and just this conversation. Lori, we are just so grateful for the wisdom and encouragement you've shared with us today. So, why don't you tell our listeners where they can go to learn more about you, the best place to get your books, your other resources as well? Where can they go to find out all about all that?
Well, thanks so much, Ginger. First of all, it's been such a joy to be on your program. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. To connect with me, go to loriwildenberg.com, LoriWildenberg.com. And you can connect with me there and find all the other resources that I have. You can also head over to Amazon to get any of my books, or you can go to the various publishers as well, which you could find on my website. But yeah, you can find me there, and also Facebook would be a great place to connect. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, so love to have connections in all
Yeah.
those spots.
Yeah, and that's a great way to connect. Those are great ways to connect with her. So we will have Heather linked to all things Lori in the show notes. Also, Lori and I are so excited to be speaking together at the Equipping Parents to Raise Disciples conference, along with our sweet friend Leanne Mancini. Sam Sorbo is also speaking, as well as Rhonda Stoppy and Lane Lawson Craft. So really, I can't wait to hear all these guys speak because I know they're just phenomenal. So when I'm not speaking, I'm going to be sitting and soaking in and learning. And we would just absolutely, Lori and I both would just love to meet you guys at this conference. It's taking place in beautiful Pompano Beach, Florida on October 10th. Beautiful time to be at the beach in the fall. So maybe plan to bring your whole family and come to this conference. You can find out more information in the show notes or on my website about this, how to register, all the information about the speakers, what we're going to be talking about. You can just go to my website, gingerhubbard.com. Thank you again, Lori. How about leaving us with a final word of encouragement?
Be an intentional Christian grandparent. There are so many really good grandparents out there, but to remember that we are second only to parents in terms of passing along faith, morals, and values. And it is a command of the Lord for us to be highly intentional in our grandkids' life regarding the development of their faith. And that would just be such a wonderful support too for our adult children, for us to be able to take on that mantle.
Thank you, Mom and Lori, and thank you, listeners, for joining us today. If you enjoy our show and want to help support our ministry, one way you can do that is by following, subscribing, and sharing our podcast with your friends. And if you'd really like to make our day, you can do that by leaving a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen. Visit gingerhubbard.com to find Ginger's practical resources that will help you get to the heart of outward behavior and address it from a biblical perspective. Today we're offering her best-selling parenting book, Don't Make Me Count to 3, a mom's look at heart-oriented discipline, as well as the 6-week study guide at a 10% discount. Just use the code parenting at checkout on gingerhubbard.com. Thank you again for joining us today. We can't wait to be with you next week. Until then, may God bless you as you seek to reach the hearts of your children for the glory of God.
I would love to. Lori Wildenberg is a licensed parent. Wait.
Licensed
Oh,
parent.
a licensed parent. Okay. All right. We're off to a great start here. All right. I should have read through that.
We got to get licensed in Colorado.
to be a parent. Oh, you'll have to put that as a blooper. That'd be funny.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Here we go.